Antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD, is a term that often appears in discussions about crime. It describes a pattern of behavior that ignores the rights and feelings of others. People with this disorder often break the law and act without thinking about the consequences. For those of us who study criminal psychology, understanding ASPD is crucial. It helps us understand why some people commit terrible acts. These individuals are not just making bad choices. They operate with a different set of internal rules. Their minds work in a way that can be hard for most people to comprehend. This disorder is a key piece of the puzzle when we examine the most persistent and serious forms of criminal behavior that plague our society. The importance of ASPD in criminology cannot be overstated. When we look at prison populations, we find a high number of inmates who meet the criteria for this disorder. This is not a coincidence. The very traits that define ASPD, such as deceitfulness, impulsivity, and a lack of remorse, are the same traits that lead to criminal activity. They create a person who is willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want, no matter who gets hurt. By studying ASPD, we gain insight into the motivations behind repeated offences. We begin to see why some individuals seem unable to learn from their mistakes or feel any guilt for the harm they cause. This understanding is the first step toward developing more effective ways to manage these individuals and protect society. Think of ASPD as a shadow that follows certain individuals throughout their lives. It is a pervasive pattern, meaning it affects almost every aspect of their existence. It influences their relationships, their work, and their interactions with the world. This is not a temporary phase or a simple case of teenage rebellion. The signs often start in childhood with a condition called conduct disorder and then solidify into ASPD in adulthood. These individuals move through life like predators, seeing others not as people with feelings, but as objects to be used. They are skilled at mimicking emotions they do not feel, which makes them particularly dangerous. Their ability to charm and manipulate can fool even the most careful observer, allowing them to get close to their victims. My work has focused on understanding the minds of those who lack conscience. ASPD is a clinical diagnosis that captures a significant part of this population. It gives us a framework for identifying and studying these individuals. However, it is essential to remember that a diagnosis is just a label. Behind that label is a complex human being whose behavior has serious consequences for everyone around them. As we delve into the world of ASPD, we must approach it with a clear and objective mind. We need to look at the evidence, study the patterns, and resist the temptation to simplify what is a deeply troubling aspect of human nature. Understanding this disorder is not about making excuses for criminal behavior. It is about facing the reality of its existence and its impact on our world. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM-5, outlines several key features of ASPD. One of the most prominent is a disregard for social norms and laws. This is not just about occasionally breaking a rule, it is a consistent pattern of unlawful behavior. Individuals with ASPD often have long criminal records starting from a young age. They may engage in theft, assault, or property destruction. For them, laws are simply obstacles to be overcome, not moral guidelines to be followed. This rule-breaking is not driven by a political or social cause. It is driven by self-interest and a desire for immediate gratification. They see the world as a game, and they are willing to cheat to win. Another defining trait is deceitfulness. This is shown by repeated lying, the use of aliases, or conning others for personal profit or pleasure. Manipulation is a tool they use with expert skill. They can weave elaborate stories and present a false image of themselves to gain trust or sympathy. This is not the same as telling a white lie to avoid hurting someone's feelings. This is a cold and calculated use of deception to exploit others. They are masters of impression management, able to appear charming and sincere while hiding their true intentions. This ability to manipulate makes them particularly effective in both criminal enterprises and, at times, in legitimate professions where such skills can be used to their advantage. Impulsivity and a failure to plan ahead are also central to ASPD. These individuals often act on the spur of the moment without considering the long-term consequences. They might quit a job without having another one, end a relationship abruptly, or engage in risky behaviors without any thought for their safety or the safety of others. This impulsivity is often linked to a need for stimulation. They get bored easily and seek out excitement. This can lead them into dangerous situations, including substance abuse and violent confrontations. Their inability to delay gratification means they want what they want, and they want it now, regardless of the potential fallout from their actions. Perhaps the most chilling feature of ASPD is a profound lack of remorse. After hurting, mistreating, or stealing from someone, they show no signs of guilt. They may appear indifferent to the pain they have caused, or even rationalize their behavior by blaming the victim. They might say things like, "He had it coming," or "She was foolish to trust me." This lack of conscience is what allows them to repeatedly harm others without being troubled by it. It is a fundamental absence of the emotional brakes that stop most people from engaging in harmful acts. This emotional void is what makes them so different and ultimately so dangerous to the people they encounter. It is very important to understand the difference between antisocial personality disorder and psychopathy. Many people use the terms interchangeably, but they are not the same. ASPD is a clinical diagnosis found in the DSM-5. It is primarily defined by a history of antisocial and criminal behaviors. A person can be diagnosed with ASPD if they show a consistent pattern of rule-breaking, lying, and impulsivity. The diagnosis focuses heavily on observable actions. Think of it as a checklist of behaviors. If a person ticks enough boxes, they meet the criteria for the disorder. This makes it a useful tool for legal and clinical settings where a diagnosis is needed. Psychopathy, on the other hand, is a more specific and severe construct. It is not an official diagnosis in the DSM-5, but it is a concept I have spent my career studying. Psychopathy includes the behavioral problems seen in ASPD, but it goes much deeper. It also includes a unique set of personality traits related to a person's emotional and interpersonal life. These include a complete lack of empathy, a grandiose sense of self-worth, a glib and superficial charm, and a parasitic lifestyle. A psychopath is not just someone who breaks rules. They are someone who is emotionally empty inside. They are incapable of forming genuine emotional bonds with others. The key difference lies in the emphasis on internal experience. While many people with ASPD may have some limited capacity for empathy or remorse, a true psychopath has none. Their emotional world is shallow. They may understand the words for emotions like love or sadness, but they do not feel them in the same way we do. This is what makes them so predatory. They see other people as pawns in their game, with no more emotional significance than a piece on a chessboard. Not everyone diagnosed with ASPD is a psychopath. However, it is fair to say that almost all psychopaths would meet the diagnostic criteria for ASPD. So we can think of it this way. ASPD describes what a person does, while psychopathy describes what a person is. Psychopathy is a more dangerous and persistent condition. The emotional and interpersonal deficits of psychopathy are what make these individuals so callous and ruthless. They are the ones who commit the most cold-blooded and calculated crimes. While ASPD identifies a broad group of individuals with antisocial tendencies, psychopathy pinpoints the most severe and predatory subset within that group. This distinction is vital for risk assessment and for understanding the true nature of the individuals we are dealing with in the criminal justice system. The connection between antisocial personality disorder and criminal behavior is strong and well documented. The very definition of the disorder includes traits that naturally lead to conflict with the law. When a person is impulsive, disregards rules, and feels no guilt, they are on a direct path to criminal activity. They do not have the internal controls that prevent most people from acting on their worst impulses. If they want something, they take it. If someone gets in their way, they remove them. This simple, self-centered logic governs their actions, making them a constant threat to the safety and property of others. The crimes they commit are often not crimes of passion, but cold, instrumental acts designed to achieve a specific goal. Individuals with ASPD are overrepresented in the population of repeat offenders. Their inability to learn from punishment is a key factor here. A typical person who gets arrested and goes to prison might feel shame and fear, and they would be motivated to change their behavior to avoid returning. For someone with ASPD, prison is just an occupational hazard. It is part of the cost of doing business. They do not experience the same emotional distress, so the deterrent effect of punishment is greatly reduced. They may become better at not getting caught, but the underlying drive to break rules remains unchanged. This is why they often cycle in and out of the justice system, a pattern known as recidivism. The lack of empathy associated with ASPD is particularly relevant when we look at violent crime. To physically harm or kill another human being requires a person to overcome a powerful natural inhibition. For most people, the thought of causing such pain is horrifying. For someone with ASPD, this emotional barrier is weak or non-existent. They can inflict violence with the same emotional detachment as someone swatting a fly. This allows them to commit brutal acts without the psychological distress that would overwhelm a normal person. Their victims are not seen as fellow human beings but as objects or obstacles. This cold-bloodedness is a hallmark of the most serious and predatory violent offenders. Furthermore, the manipulative nature of people with ASPD helps them carry out complex and deceptive crimes. They are skilled at fraud, scams, and confidence games. They can gain the trust of their victims, exploit their weaknesses, and then disappear without a trace. This ability to lie convincingly and without anxiety makes them very effective criminals. They can maintain a facade of normalcy while engaging in a secret life of crime. This combination of impulsivity, a lack of remorse, and manipulative skill creates a perfect storm for a life of serious and persistent criminal behavior. It is a dangerous cocktail of traits that puts the entire community at risk. Ted Bundy is a classic example of a criminal who displayed the severe traits of psychopathy, which includes all the features of antisocial personality disorder. On the surface, he was charming, intelligent, and, well, handsome. He used this facade to lure his victims into a state of trust. This superficial charm is a key trait. Beneath this mask was a man completely devoid of empathy or remorse. He committed horrific acts of violence against dozens of young women, yet he never showed any genuine guilt. In interviews, he would speak about his crimes with a chilling detachment, as if he were discussing the weather. Bundy perfectly illustrates how a person can appear normal, even appealing, while hiding a monstrous inner world. His ability to manipulate everyone, from his victims to the legal professionals around him, was extraordinary. Pablo Escobar, the infamous Colombian drug lord, provides another powerful example of antisocial personality disorder traits at work on a grand scale. His entire empire was built on a foundation of violence, intimidation, and a complete disregard for the law. He was responsible for the deaths of thousands of people, including police officers, judges, politicians, and innocent civilians. He ordered bombings and assassinations without a second thought, as long as it served his business interests. This demonstrates the instrumental use of violence that is common in individuals with antisocial personality disorder. For Escobar, people were either assets or liabilities. He lacked the empathy to see the human cost of his actions, viewing murder as just another tool to maintain power and wealth. What connects figures like Bundy and Escobar is their profound lack of conscience combined with a grandiose sense of their own importance. They believed they were special and that the normal rules of society did not apply to them. Bundy saw his victims as objects for his gratification, and Escobar saw an entire country as his personal property. This grandiosity fueled their willingness to commit extreme acts. They were not simply breaking rules, they were creating their own reality where they were the ultimate authority. This mindset is a dangerous component of antisocial personality disorder and psychopathy, as it removes any sense of limit or restraint on their behavior. They truly believe they are entitled to do whatever they please. These cases teach us a valuable lesson. The traits of antisocial personality disorder are not confined to petty criminals or street thugs. They can be found in individuals who are intelligent, organized, and capable of building vast criminal enterprises. Both Bundy and Escobar were successful in their careers for a long time because of their antisocial personality disorder-related traits, not in spite of them. Their ruthlessness, manipulativeness, and lack of fear allowed them to outmaneuver their rivals and evade justice. They show us the devastating impact that one individual with these traits can have, whether it is through serial violence on a personal level or through organized crime on a societal level. Criminal organizations such as the mafia or drug cartels create an environment where the traits of antisocial personality disorder are not just tolerated, they are actually rewarded. In a world governed by violence and illegal profit, a lack of empathy becomes, well, a valuable asset. A person who can carry out orders to harm or kill someone without hesitation is, frankly, useful to the organization. They are seen as reliable and strong, you know? Someone who is burdened by guilt or remorse would be a liability. The criminal underworld really functions as a kind of reverse society, where the very characteristics that are considered pathological in the normal world become, oddly enough, virtues. This is why these groups attract and promote individuals with strong antisocial and psychopathic traits. Impulsivity, while often a problem in normal life, can also be an advantage in certain criminal contexts. The ability to act quickly and decisively in a violent confrontation can, quite literally, mean the difference between life and death. However, it is the cold, calculated side of antisocial personality disorder that is truly prized. The ability to plan a crime without being swayed by fear or moral considerations is absolutely essential for success in organized crime. Leaders of these groups, like Pablo Escobar, must be able to make ruthless decisions for the good of the business. They must be willing to sacrifice their own people and eliminate rivals without emotion. A conscience would make such leadership impossible. Manipulation and deceit are, in a sense, the currency of the criminal world. To survive and thrive, a person must be able to lie to the police, to rival gangs, and even to their own associates. They must be skilled at creating false alliances and betraying others when it is convenient. The superficial charm often seen in individuals with antisocial personality disorder is a powerful tool for this. It allows them to gain trust and gather information, which they can then use to their advantage. In this environment, loyalty is temporary and self-interest is the only true law. The person who is best at manipulating others is the one who is most likely to rise to the top of the criminal hierarchy. This creates a self-perpetuating cycle. Criminal organizations provide a structure where individuals with antisocial personality disorder can achieve their power, wealth, and excitement and strength. In turn, these individuals strengthen the organization with their ruthlessness and lack of restraint. The group provides a sense of belonging and a code of conduct, albeit a criminal one, that gives their antisocial impulses a purpose and direction. It channels their destructive tendencies into a profitable enterprise. For a person who feels like an outsider in normal society, a criminal gang can feel like a family, a dysfunctional and dangerous family, but one that understands and values them for who they are. It is a common misconception that everyone with antisocial personality disorder is destined to become a violent criminal. This is simply not true. While the disorder significantly increases the risk of criminal behavior, it does not guarantee it. The same traits that can make a person a successful criminal can also, in some cases, lead to success in other areas of life. It all depends on a variety of other factors, including intelligence, socioeconomic background, and opportunity. Some people with these traits learn to channel their impulses in ways that are more socially acceptable, even if their underlying motivations remain selfish and unemotional. Consider a person with high intelligence, a lack of empathy, and a talent for manipulation. If this person grows up in a violent and impoverished environment, they might become a gang leader. However, if that same person is raised in a wealthy family and given a top-tier education, they might become a ruthless CEO, a cutthroat politician, or a high-stakes surgeon. In these roles, a cool head under pressure, a willingness to make tough decisions, and a focus on winning can be seen as strengths. They can fire hundreds of people without losing sleep or perform a risky surgery with steady hands because they are not overwhelmed by emotion. They are not breaking the law, but they are still using their traits to get ahead. These successful individuals with antisocial personality disorder traits are often called corporate psychopaths or snakes in suits. They may not be physically violent, but they can cause immense harm in other ways. They might destroy companies, ruin people's careers, or engage in unethical business practices to increase their own power and wealth. They are just as lacking in empathy as the street criminal, but they have learned to operate within the rules of a different game. They are skilled at hiding their true nature behind a mask of success and respectability. To their colleagues, they may seem ambitious and driven. Only those who get in their way see the cold, calculating predator underneath. This shows that the expression of antisocial personality disorder is complex. The disorder itself does not dictate a specific path, but rather a style of interacting with the world. It provides the what, the lack of empathy, the impulsivity, the drive for self-gratification. The environment and individual circumstances provide the how, whether those traits are channeled into brutal street crime or into a high-powered career. This is a crucial point to remember. It reminds us that while the link between antisocial personality disorder and crime is strong, it is not an absolute. The potential for harm exists in many forms, not all of which will land a person in prison. The development of antisocial personality disorder is not caused by a single factor. It is a complex interplay between genetic predispositions and environmental influences. This is often referred to as the nature versus nurture debate. Research has shown that there is a significant genetic component to antisocial personality disorder. Individuals with a close family member who has the disorder are more likely to develop it themselves. This suggests that some people are born with a brain that is, well, wired differently. For example, they may have lower levels of arousal, which leads them to seek out more stimulation, or they may have deficits in the parts of the brain that process emotions like fear and empathy. However, genes are not destiny. Environmental factors play a crucial role in determining whether these genetic vulnerabilities will be expressed. A child who is born with a predisposition for antisocial personality disorder, but is raised in a stable, loving, and supportive home, may never develop the full-blown disorder. The positive environment can act as a protective buffer. On the other hand, a child with the same genetic risks who is raised in a chaotic, abusive, or neglectful environment is at a much higher risk. Exposure to violence, inconsistent parenting, and poverty can all contribute to the development of the disorder. The environment can, in a sense, switch on the genes that lead to these antisocial traits. The early years of life are particularly critical. Many individuals who are later diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder show signs of conduct disorder in childhood or adolescence. These signs include aggression toward people and animals, destruction of property, deceitfulness, and serious violations of rules. This is often the first warning sign that something is wrong. If a child grows up learning that violence and manipulation are effective ways to get what they want, and if they lack the internal emotional feedback to feel bad about it, these behaviors become deeply ingrained. The family environment and early social experiences shape how their innate tendencies will unfold over time. Therefore, understanding antisocial personality disorder requires us to look at both the biological and the social pieces of the puzzle. It is a biopsychosocial disorder. We cannot blame it solely on bad genes or solely on a bad upbringing. It is the unfortunate combination of the two that creates the most dangerous outcomes. A child might be born with the gun of genetic risk, but it is the environment that pulls the trigger. This understanding is important because it suggests that early intervention can potentially make a difference. By identifying at-risk children and providing them with supportive environments, we may be able to steer them away from a life of crime and violence. In conclusion, antisocial personality disorder is a vital concept for anyone trying to understand the landscape of crime. It provides a name and a set of criteria for a pattern of behavior that lies at the heart of our most persistent and serious criminal problems. The core traits of the disorder, a disregard for rules, deceitfulness, impulsivity, and a profound lack of remorse, create an individual who is primed for a criminal life. They operate without the conscience that guides the actions of most people, allowing them to pursue their own self-interest without regard for the harm they cause to others. This makes them a significant focus for the criminal justice system and for society as a whole. It is also critical to maintain the distinction between the broader diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder and the more severe condition of psychopathy. While antisocial personality disorder describes a pattern of antisocial behavior, psychopathy points to a deeper emotional emptiness that accounts for the most cold-blooded and predatory criminals, like Ted Bundy. Understanding this difference helps us to better assess the risks posed by different individuals. Furthermore, we can see how criminal organizations create a perfect niche for these traits, rewarding the very ruthlessness and manipulativeness that makes these individuals so dangerous. This creates a destructive synergy between the person and the criminal environment. However, we must also remember that a diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder is not a life sentence for criminality. As we have seen, some individuals with these traits find ways to succeed in socially acceptable fields, channeling their ambition and lack of emotion into careers in business, politics, or other high-stakes professions. This reminds us that the outcome is not predetermined. The interplay between a person's genetic makeup and their life experiences is what ultimately shapes their path. It is a complex puzzle, and there are no simple answers that can explain every case. The disorder increases risk, but it does not erase the influence of choice and circumstance. Ultimately, studying antisocial personality disorder and psychopathy is not about finding excuses for criminal behavior. It is about striving for a clearer understanding of a difficult and, honestly, disturbing reality. By understanding the psychological makeup of these individuals, we can better predict their behavior, manage the risk they pose, and perhaps develop more effective interventions, especially for at-risk youth. It forces us to confront the fact that some people in our midst operate by a completely different set of rules. Facing this reality, as unsettling as it is the first and most necessary step toward protecting society from the damage they can cause.